당은 가서 산주 건조 쇼 건조 기준 건조세 접숨 내내데 안 탈바 되바는 이 접해야지 지단다 산주 건조세데 접된보 보고서 남 코르 동할 줘야기 탑람 등에 산주 건조 드려야다 되네 아니 기준 건조된 아주기 냠는 집에 갑라 아주를 튕게다 로체겐데다 기준 건조들이에스 남든 제겐데야 안당 아주 용어수 냠는 제에 가르스네 람 냠는 제 람된 귤에 냠는 제 람된 냠는 귤에 제발에 때네 안돼야 아는 아주 녀모바 사본의 제바 뻥배 뻥용도 안 탈배고 봤어야 돼 냅잡아래 코르 동안에 잡아래스 되는 녀모바샤다 제바 뻥배 뻥바 토용도 아는 코르 녀모배 바자 녀모바 탐질에다 잡아래스 잡래스 어두시네 제산 되니기산 접숨되시 대안에 탈바되바는 접레시도 대 탈바되니 돈도 니르지 코르 동아 탈레 주주지 타바되니 돈도 니르겐 남기 람tem는 제발에 때네 아니 쭉쭉 그래서 제산 탈바되니 돈이 맞게 봐이나 냠는지 말에 냠는 맞게 봐이나 안 접숨도 쭉투야 말해서 되니자 탈바되바는 접레서 가서 가산티 걸 때네 쉬로
Good morning. So last night we were looking at this quotation from Chandakirti where we discussed several key points. The first was to look at the three jewels. Three jewels being the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel and Sangha jewel. And the Buddha jewel is whom illuminates the path to liberation and enlightenment. The Sangha jewel are those who accompany and guide us in our training, and the Dharma jewel is what is attained when a being trains successfully in the path and thereby abandons the seeds together with afflictions and gives rise to true cessations and true paths in their continuum. So the Dharma jewel is the true cessations and true paths in the continuum of the Sangha jewel and the Buddha jewel. And the Dharma jewel, being the actual refuge, is what actually protects one from suffering, in that the generation of the true cessations and true paths is what protects one from suffering. A second key point we looked at last night was a term we have for wishing for liberation, or retranslated as aspiring for liberation. This has to be generated, because without the aspiration to attain liberation from the sufferings of samsara, one will not wholeheartedly apply oneself to cultivating true paths and true cessations in one's continuum. And in order to generate the aspiration for liberation, that comes about in dependence on reflecting deeply on the sufferings of samsara.
접숨지데 산제 건조라 안에 이 산제 차상 산제 간의 시민의 연년년밤마도 개발가요 말해서 제가 산제 건조라디 이 야고도 있다 안에 내가 지다 탈둑해야 돼 가능지야 마 산제 건조 탈둑 봐야지 다 최 건조해야 되라 니 탈둑 있다 탈둑보다 타마도 봐 니시야 용거래서 제가 당 저기 파베게 셈제 산지고바 마토비게 파베 강사 규기 고된다 람된디게 안내가 최고건조래 이나다 탈마토바자 내갑기 최고건조래 해서 내갑기 최고건조 안 탈을 투요 말 마토바자 내갑기 최고건조래 다 산지 파베 규기 고된다 람된이디 다 탈침바 인자 안 탈투비게 최고건조래 다 탈두기 최고건조 지상 디네 최고건조들라 내갑기 최고건조다 탈두기 최고건조서 니치기월에 안에 다 기둥 건조 될라양 전주 심진 상기고 마도비게 파베 강사디기 차상 안에 내가 비게 된 거죠래서 그래서 상기고 토요 말아 탈치 말아 마침에 내가 인자 네 람냠린 집에 내가 비 인자 내가 비게 된 거죠 다 상기고롱 녀모바차 빵천에 상기고 톱선에 상기 파베 강사 세디 상기 파바디 다 탈투바 인자 다 되네 아니 탈투게 개령 건조하세 지산다 최고 건조단 기준 건조 니들라 내갑지 기둥 고쳐다 탈두지 기둥 조선 켜와 니체 거래 최고권조 될라양 내갑지 최고권조다 탈두지 최고권조서 야와 니체 거래 상계권조 될라 니체요 말에 다 탈두기 상계권조 찍마도요 말에지 가상가서 디네가 쉬마
Something else we looked at last night was divisions within the three jewels into temporary and perfected. So just to say as an aside, as a translator, so this segment last night I didn't express clearly at all, so it's about 42 minutes into the teaching last night. So hence again, as representing it now in a way that, so I can present it more clearly than I did last night. And also, rather than translating the one division as temporary, I'll rather use a synonym of provisional. It seems more appropriate. So
could we use causal and resultant? Because
that's a different division. So because this I'd never heard before until last night, was a causal and refuge. A resultant, yeah, was the other one. So looking at the three jewels, starting with the Buddha jewel. The Buddha jewel refers to all Buddhas. And all Buddhas are perfected beings, perfected in that they have perfectly abandoned all faults and perfectly developed all good qualities. That's the Buddha jewel. The Buddha jewel only exists as a perfected jewel. The Dharma jewel has two divisions, provisional and perfected. The Dharma jewel that has arisen in a non-Buddha, in an Arya being who is not an Arya Buddha, such a Dharma jewel, these true paths and true cessations, are provisional in that they are still to be developed further. They haven't been developed, the true paths and cessations haven't been developed to perfection. When this Arya non-Buddha attains the state of enlightenment, they retain true paths and cessations, which are still Dharma jewels, but then these are illustrations of perfected Dharma jewels. Whereas prior, when they were a non-Buddha Arya being, it would have been a provisional Dharma jewel. And so too with the Sangha jewel. The Sangha jewel is a being who has the Dharma jewel developed in their continuum, and when the illustration of the Sangha jewel is a non-Buddha, a non-Buddha Arya being, they are a provisional, they are an illustration of the Sangha jewel, but the provisional Sangha jewel. When they have developed into a perfected being, there will now be an Arya Buddha, and they will be an illustration still of the Sangha jewel, but the perfected Sangha jewel. So therefore, the Buddha jewel only has the division of being a perfected jewel, whereas the Dharma jewel and Sangha jewel have the two divisions of provisional and perfected. Provisional will refer to a non-Arya Buddha, and the perfected will refer to the illustration when the being is a perfected being, a Buddha.
A non-Buddha Arya.
A non-Buddha Arya. So the Sangha jewel and the Dharma jewel is an illustration of being provisional when it refers to a non-Buddha Arya being. Yeah, a non-Buddha Arya being. When it refers to a Buddha Arya, an Arya Buddha, then it would be a perfected Sangha jewel, a perfected Dharma jewel.
탈두비 겹까지 열어서 탈두비 겹 숨이 오래서 탈투비기다. 탈투비 겹 숨대 가려는 상계 호랑지 상유권초듯이 다 상계 호랑이 규기 고된다 남대니디 최고 조시 다 상계 파바고 상계 호랑인데 파베 강사 기준과 기준고처럼 기준을 파베 강사로 제사디 근데 기준고처지 제사 상계다 상계 는 규기 고된다 라면이지도 탈두기 겹내 숨세도 디세고다 탈두기 겹 숨다여도 상기 호랑지 상기 규규 고된다 남된지 아니 상기 호랑 기준 거저 차도와 디 숨데라 다 숨데 탈두 겹내 숨세지 탈두 겹내 숨세지 숨고로
The term, the three perfected jewels, will refer to a Buddha, an Arya Buddha, in that being a Buddha, a perfected being, they are an illustration of the Buddha jewel, and the Buddha jewel is necessarily perfected. The Dharma jewel in the continuum of an Arya Buddha, this too is perfected, in that their true cessations and paths are perfected. An Arya Buddha is also an illustration of the Sangha jewel, and is an illustration of the perfected Sangha jewel being a perfected being. So therefore, the three perfected jewels exist or abide within all Buddhas, or all Buddhas are an illustration of the three perfected jewels.
단 내갑라데 가리 내갑 고고라스는 람 냠는 집에 내갑시고 람 냠나 산지요 고방 투비 추도 마주게 냠는 집에 내갑들라 내갑시고와 지나다 딘 냠는 집에 내가라도 상마게 발고 투고도와 다 디니게 내갑게 겹들라 수묘르베스네 수묘 말다 가리요 말다 산지 권조도요 말 제가 내갑게 겹네 가제요라스네 니요레라고 최권조요라 기딘 권조요레 마다 산지 권조요 말레스 제가 내가 겹네들라 가제요라스네 겹숨 나네 내가 겹나라 가제 여러서 이용거리 예제래 가려요 말에서는 상기 권초도요 말에 가서 상기 토비 마토바 토비 치도 냠는 제가 상기지요 말와 매와서 상기 권초요 말이지 안다다 내가 탈두고 겹네들라 숨 창거를 숨가요래 예제듯이 숨들이 제가 탈두고 겹네들라 겹숨가요래 내가 겹들라 겹니마도 숨용요 말에서지 당아도
The three jewels are seen as perfected, there are three. But when they are provisional, there are only two. And the reason for them being provisional is they are not yet perfected. They have not yet been completely purified. And last night when we looked at the etymology of the word Buddha, Sangye, so the word sang, which is to awaken or to completely cleanse or purify, this has not been developed yet in terms of the Sangha jewel and the Dharma jewel to the point of perfection. So the Arya non-Buddha will still be training, still developing, still progressing towards, still perfecting their good qualities, but not yet perfected. Therefore, the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel, when referring to a non-Buddha Arya being, are provisional jewels. And therefore there are only two, because the Buddha jewel necessarily refers to a perfected being, and therefore there is only the one division of perfected, not, whereas the Dharma and Sangha jewel have the two divisions, are provisional and perfected.
직라 디숨바 직바 인겐지 여르베서다 디와실리고라지 직바 인겐지 직바 인겐지 여르베서네 되네 용거래 제사다 디메베레 제가도 탱규바게 셰바나 그래서네 상기 파바디 상기 권조레 기니 권조레 니가레 이내 최 권조 말에 상기 가사로 상기 파바라네 가사로와 람딘 마로와 람딘네 셰바인 거로와 곡된 말과 곡된 딱바로와 제자 상계 파바디 최고조 레벨스네 말해시고래. 그래서네 람디야 말해 곡대야 말해스. 근데 상계 파바디 상계 레벨스네 레스. 제자다 상계 인자 상계고조 차로와. 다 상계 파바디 파베 강사 레벨네 파베 강사 레스. 파베 강사의 기능고조로와. 제자 기능고조다 상계고조 니가 이게 지겨래. 수레스는 상계 파바디 레스. 상계 파바 코롱 기능고조 아래 and the Sangye Gonjo Reje, that Chu Gonjo Mareje. Gansarwa, Sangye Papalana Gansarwa, Chu Gonjo Lana Lamdingo, Lamden Gotiningo, Gotin Takwarwa, Lamden Shevarwa, just Sangye Papa de Gansa, the Sheva Marwa, and the Gotakwa Marwa, just now Chu Gonjo Chagio Mareje. Just that Sangye Gonjo Hora, Sangye Hora, Sangye Inza, and the Sangye Gonjo. 파베 강사 인상 기준 거죠래. 지사 상계 파바 람나 기준 거죠다 상계 권주 니가 인 최권주 말해서 지사 최권주다 상계 권주 기준 숨바 인견 지겨 말해서 그렇다.
may well sound like a single being can be all three jewels, or maybe to express it differently, all three jewels can refer to a single being. And so according to the Prasangika, this is not the case. An Arya Buddha is not the Dharma jewel. An Arya Buddha is a being. An Arya Buddha is the Buddha jewel, or is an illustration of the Buddha jewel, because the Buddha jewel also refers to a being, as well as an Arya Buddha is also an illustration of the Sangha jewel. The Sangha jewel too is a being. But an Arya Buddha is not the Dharma jewel. And why is that? Because the Dharma jewel is not a being or not a person, whereas the Buddha jewel and Sangha jewel are. So why is the Dharma jewel then not a person or a being? Is because the Dharma jewel refers to true paths and true cessations. True paths is not a being, it's a consciousness. True cessations are not a being, it's a permanent phenomenon. So therefore, the Dharma jewel is not a being or is not a person, whereas the Sangha jewel and the Buddha jewel are. So therefore, according to Prasangika, the a being is not all three jewels, but rather a Buddha is a Buddha jewel and a Sangha jewel, but is not a Dharma jewel, because a Dharma jewel is not a person, but rather is true cessations, which is a permanent phenomenon, and true paths, which are consciousness.
Gyab sumga ingen chik tatuwa gyab chik yuwa resi gore. Ta karre labna, Uma Rangi bigi gansa ge tsenshi yigi nambar sheba, tsenshi ki nambar sheba scaling yorwa. Tsenshi yigi nambar sheba gansa sayade, pa shimchubi jeyo do gala yigi nambar sheba de gansa re, sisi lagorwa, sungorwa. Jeza yanza, sanje pabi yugi tsenshi yigi nambar sheba sayade yorwa. Di lamre shebarwa, yigi nambar sheba za shebarwa. 제사 상계 법의 천지기 넘버 쉐바디 쉐바 라민자 최고권조리에서 그래 최고권조리에제 다 상계 법의 천지기 넘버 쉐바디 강사로와 장주버진의 강사로와 제사 개두고 조리에지 가서 상계 인자 다고 강사 상계 인자 상계권조리에서 다고 법의 강사의 개두권조리에서 제사 상계 법의 천지기 넘버 쉐바디 상계 권조도 최고제 교육권조 숨가래스 제가 상계 랑규발라나 룩라 상계 권조 접 숨가 인행지 요래서 그래 가르샤그리라네 상계 법이 천지기 넘버 쉐바디다 상계 권조래 최고권조래 교육권조래 숨가래서 그랬다 천시기 넘버 쉐바 천시도 빼천어도 뒤대로 분배 뭐배 천지가래 분바 미 천시 쇼라네 너시 시장아 치실 천시서 디나 직소라 곧 뭐요 송야도 빼천도 무슨 천시서로 제사단 가사세데 간지 뭐요 송구래라도 이기 넘버 쉐바도 파 심주지데 이기 넘버 쉐바데 가사래 세데 디 뭐요 송고로와 어디시고다 제가 랑주바 제바나 캡숨가 타두게 캡숨가 인겐지 요래세 가래 이래스네 상제 법의 이기 넘버 쉐바데다 이기 넘버 쉐바 참어줘로바디 다 숨가래에서 온다.
The Svatantika, the autonomous Middle Way school, they agree with the Prasangika, but only to a point. So they would say a single being is an illustration of, or can be an illustration of all three jewels. For example, a Buddha. Because a Buddha is an illustration of a Buddha jewel, so they agree with Prasangika there, and a Buddha is an illustration of the Sangha jewel, so again they agree with Prasangika. Where the difference is the Svatantika also assert that a Buddha is an illustration of the Dharma jewel because the Dharma jewel is a person. And this is because, so the Dharma jewel, true cessations and true paths. True paths is a consciousness. And according to Svatantika, the person, when sought, is found, as a subtle consciousness. So therefore, the consciousness is consciousness is an illustration of the person, and as true paths is consciousness. Therefore, a Buddha is also the Dharma jewel of a Buddha is a person. Therefore, a single being is all three jewels. So this is according to Svatrantika.
That in it, the Sanye Pavi Yula, and it Niji Chimbo Yore, Janju Sim Yore, Tonyu to be Shera Yore, Jimbi, Chudim, that you get in Chazan, Disu Chazan, Chogonjurwa, Lamdera, Chogonjurwa. In a Disu Chazan, Chogonjure, Mado, Gidun Gonjoda, and the Casore, Sanyu Casore, Gidun Gonjo Chagio Mare. Because this is Sheva, Gansa Marva. She's a Sanji Gule Chugonjo, Mangu, the Lamdin, you chew, Jamba, Nije, and Janjosim, not on you to be shut up. This is the Tartu Sunga, Rebesan Sunga Mare, Gansa Mare. That Sunga Ingen, the Garel and the dinner, the E number Sheba, Seji number Sheba said, Dima Doyo Marida, it's Sanji Chugonjo, Chasa, Sunga Chagio Mare. Just a landing or you choke Chasa, Japsunga Ingen Chagoma, Japsunga Ingen the Gadasne, that it's Seji number Sheba, Sanji, you get Seji number Sheba, Coron, that Japsunga, yes, a mother, Lamding or you be Jap Chasa, Lamden Chasa, Chogonjo Chasa, and get Sumba Lego Mare.
We clear here the Svatrantika Madhyamaka, the Autonomous Middle Way School. They are saying that only the subtle primary mental consciousness is the true path, that is the Dharma jewel and a person. There are other Dharma jewels which are not a person. The consciousness, other consciousnesses in the continuum of a Buddha, such as the wisdom realizing emptiness, compassion, ethical restraint, and so forth, vast number of virtuous qualities. All of these are true paths and are Dharma jewels, but are not the person.
Sanji Pabu Yukisioroda. Shogunjuri. She's a Shogunjuri, Mado, Hide, and Gaza Marwa, she's a Ginugonjo Malesiora.
So just the last point to emphasize that, so according to Svatrantika, they will say these virtuous qualities in the continuum of a Buddha are true paths, are the Dharma jewel, but are not a person. The only Dharma jewel that is a person is the primary mental consciousness that is the person. That the person that when sought is found. That is that Dharma jewel alone is a Dharma jewel that is said to be a person.
Penanga Serdang with the Rimbucheres, Godunda, and Za Chimbochina, Rinang Chimbodilla, and a Gombu, the Dusm Gombuche, Rinang Chimboches, in that Za Chimboche, Della Rimbuche Legro. The Dinashi, Sanji Goncho, Chu Gonjo, Gidu Gonjo, somebody, the Rimbuche Za Chimbochidang, and Gombu, Shuji, Gombuchna, Za Chimbo Shuji, the Yobana, and Digi. Punson Soboya, Pando Chembo Yoba, and Gonjo Rimbuche, as you sicked to Ligorua.
So I asked Gena this morning to talk a little bit about the etymology of three jewels or three gems, because the word for jewel or gem does not appear in the Tibetan. So now he's explaining this. Literally, it is. Can be called either, so there is another word that is often used, which is for protection, but now he's talking about the word that means rarity. Rarity, and sometimes conjoined with this will be a word for precious as well. So the reason why the word for rarity has been translated as jewels or gems, so we have always 3 gems or 3 jewels, is because the actual word of rarity implies that something is precious because it is so rare, like a jewel. So literally, what it comes to mind when the Tibetan speaker sees this term is the 3 rarities, or the 3 rarities. And we have the translation as the 3 jewels. But the meaning is that it is something that is rare and precious.
Gyapsum tarduye namki gyapne chikburu ngeba dela du gyawa ino sashi. Gyapsum tarduye namki gyapne chikburu ngeba dela du gyawa ino.
Now let's turn back to the text. Near the top of page 25, we come to the commentary on the 2-line verse that we looked at last night, His Holiness's commentary. Looking at the first sentence. And just to say, throughout this paragraph, I've retranslated or changed the word wishing to aspiring in the same way as in the verse above. Thus, certainty will easily arise that the 3 jewels are the sole source of refuge for those aspiring for liberation.
Tarduye gyapsum siroda kasan sanje konjo shogonjo gidi konjo sone gyapsum bodishe gyapsum je. Da tarduye namgi siroda ngana jogi dan tarba deba koyo dunga tada de choje tarba tobudu sembege da denege tarba deba namgi da gyapsum de karela ne sanje konjo shogonjo sum gidi konjo sum bodires. Jesnada disumado shanda gyap kan yo mare sedi 직불을 해봐. 디숨마도 민도 디숨다 직불을 해봐래샤 선배게 근데 또 베게 체마디 기리에서 델라도 기리에서 레라고시 기도 그래서 그래.
Here, the Tibetan term that we have translated as 3 jewels is literally the 3 protectors. So this is the other way that it's expressed. What Gena commented on a moment ago was the 3 the 3 rarities, whereas here the Tibetan term is the alternative, which is the 3 maybe protectors, the 3 protections, maybe the 3 protections. So now to come to his commentary. So the 3 protections for those who are aspiring for liberation. One will come to recognize with great ease and certainty. In other words, the certainty refers to generating valid cognition that it is the 3 jewels of the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel solely. And this will easily arise for those, this recognition will easily arise for those who are aspiring for liberation.
다들이야 직불을 해봐 시대 직마도 요 말해서 직마도 현다 요 말해서 그거로 직불을 해봐 시대 다들 숨가래 자용 거래 근데 상계 건조 람 근데 탈 상계 상 탈바다 탐지 캠비 고방 토바지 비게 탑 냠린 땡행기 땡바다 탈도도 수레서 상계 건조마도 현수직이 땡 두고 말해 제디 코르 동아 타달을 저제 탈비게 람 토비야기 람마노와 땡헨디다 상유권주 지불에 세지 마도 상유권주 상계 마도 셴 땡투 말에 세지 송거다 지불네 세도 이 임바데 하고고를 상이 지불레샤 마도 셴다다 상계 마도 셴 타바다 템제 김벽 람지다 와신도 땡투펜디다 상계 마도 셴다 민도 상이 지불레샤 세네 내교래 또 그래 세고래 지불네 세야 똑바 하고 와 해봐. 하고 와 똑바서前面 똑바는 해봐서.
Second word, certainty. So this word, it's translated as either certain or definite. It often, such as here, but not always, often refers to realizing with a valid cognition. So this is the common meaning of this word, certainty, or being certain or being definite. And that is the meaning here. One will realize with valid cognition that the sole refuge for one who is aspiring for liberation or omniscience are the three jewels, because the sole perfected being is a Buddha, and therefore it is only the Buddha jewel that is able to teach the complete and unmistaken path, and teach it in a way that is complete and unmistaken. This certainty, this realization, this valid cognition can easily arise for those genuinely aspiring for liberation.
캔네 랑기 기념술에 캔네 지진 지마신 뚠투게디다 마노다 마추바다 지다와신의 뚠투게디다 사예 직보레샤 세네 하고고레 도고레스 도투그레스 네바 텔라도 이테네 도블로디 기투그레스 요르바다.
In the world there are many teachers of paths, amongst them bodhisattvas and even Arya bodhisattvas. Here one comes to recognize that it is only a Buddha jewel that is perfected, and therefore being a perfected being, has perfected the path of training and can present it in a way that is complete and unmistaken.
코르 둥아 타달레 탈바디 가리고스네 뇽모바 사보나 제바 빵베 곡딘디 토병도 타바 투구레마도 니 마섭나 타바 토야기네 민도스 제상 코르 둥아레 타야디 가르스네 뇽모바 사보나 제바 빵베 곡딘 찍부레샤스 디 톱나 타바 투구디 디 마섭나 타바 투구 민도스 제사디 탈비고 방 코발루 뒤에 타바 토발라 냠렌 가소레 뇽모바 사바나 집에 빵비 고tin 디 토구두 디 마톱나 타바 토군디 디 톱나 타바 토구 제사 타바 토발레 디 인지 미징 에바 토고에 디 지부레샤 세지 네디 지부레샤 디 보고 데네기 지부이 바동어 지부르네 세야디 제사 타바 토비기 타바 톱세야디 뇽모바 사바나 집에 빵비 고tin 디 토묘데 타바 토구디 디 마도나 타바 토구네 다다 타바 톱다 마톱 지세디 가리였으면 다 뇽모바 사보나 제바 빵베 고거든 지부레샤스 지부르네 디바다 하고 토부레스 녜바 지부르네 해야돼.
Certainty is not only gained with respect to the Buddha jewel, but so too towards the Dharma jewel. So here, for those truly aspiring for liberation, they will come to realize with ease, to gain certainty with ease, that liberation from the sufferings of samsara is only attained through the generation of the Dharma jewel, because it's only the attainment of true cessations that lead to liberation from the sufferings of samsara. It's only through, certainty is gained, that it's only through the complete abandonment of the afflictions together with their seeds that leads to true cessations, and therefore liberation from the sufferings of samsara. So therefore, also, certainty or realization with valid cognition is easily attained towards the Dharma jewel.
코와를 뒤에 탈비고 어딘데 토발라 람딘 지부 냠는 제발된 톱도마도 셴 토야미누스 제시드 제자 인지 민지 녀바도 람딘 냠는 제고 고고여서데 람딘 냠는 제발된 톱마도 셴 냠는 제발 가지 냠는 제나 람딘 냠는 마셔나 고된 톱투야 타바 톱투야미누스 제자 지부를 녀바레스도 고된 탈바 토예게 람 냠는지게 람 냠는지 람델라야 녀바도 람딘 냠는 진 톱고고래 세데 이마도 냠마진에 토야미누스네 녀바들 지부 녀바세데 어디네 람델레 차나도 수슈샤래.
Certainty is not only easily attained with reference to true cessations, but also recognizing that true cessations can only be attained through cultivating true paths. How else could true cessations be attained other than cultivating true paths? So therefore, certainty is attained with reference to both true cessations and true paths. And this leads to the determination to strive to cultivate true paths within the practitioner's own continuum.
나데네게 나주게다 상기에 토 상기에 지부게 람된 제시비게 람된 제안 타버 토비게 주도 람냠는 제발이야 다로 분중 초바 로 마노와 따다 제투겐디 파베 가사마도 미노서다 람 근데 파베 가사 마토바이나 아니 냠는 베네 지게 람냠네 초람바다 졸람바라서 로바 제바이네 산요고 바토베 탈두가 지다와신도지 로지 두고민도 지다다 나가지 탈비고 바토발라 고된 녀모보 뻔뻔비 뻔바 사번 제바 뻔비 고된 탈바도 토발라 네 탈바다 탐지기고 바 토발라 아니 로지겐 기디 초도 규바데다 기딘 고지 지부레마도 데 기딘 고조 파베 가자 마이네 게 개바다 게라침 바가지 이네 디 안따다지 두고민도 지다다 델이야 로지긴 지다와신도 로제 두번인데 게리고지 지부래 해야 돼. 되네 하고도 그래 지부를 해 해야 돼. 네 두부래 해서 그러다.
Certainty is also attained in relation to the Sangha jewel, coming to recognize that only those who have cultivated true paths and thereby attained true cessations are able to guide others in how to cultivate those paths precisely. Even bodhisattvas abiding on the paths of preparation or accumulation, they have yet to gain direct experience of the paths and thereby attain a true path and a true cessation. So those great beings who are not yet Arya beings are still limited in how they can assist us or help us, or accompany us, be our companions, accompany us on the cultivation of paths. So really only the Arya beings, the Sangha jewel, who can guide us well.
어디서 되니게 잡니 지붕에봐 대라도 기르시되 되니게 지부세디 산제권조 람temboba 산제권조 다 탈득등인데 만화와도 지다와 되는거다 산지 지부래 해야지. 되네 안에 제가 뭐 녀모바 바샤다 저 코와를 드와디 안 곡된 지부 토구도 토그레스 고된데 람냠네 고된 토바집이 냠는지게 세야대 톱지게 탑 람된 지부래샤 세야다. 네 냠는 제발로 로지게 되네 기둥고주 파베 기둥고주 지부래 세야대. 되네 지다와신도 로지도 근데 기둥고주 지부래 세대 지다 지부래 세야대. 지부를 내봐 되네 또 그래서 지부 세야대. 산제권 주고주 기둥고주 송가를 자진다. 예 때라도 끼와 또 그래 세야대 송으로.
Certainty will easily arise at the three jewels of the sole source of refuge for those wishing for liberation, or aspiring for liberation. Here then, that through having generated the determination, the aspiration to attain liberation, one will recognize that it's the sole source of our spiritual developments will be the Buddha jewel, because it's only a Buddha that is a completely perfected being and can guide one perfectly, unmistakably. Moreover, one gains certainty that only the attainment of true cessations in one's continuum leads to the cessation of the sufferings of samsara. And true cessations can only be attained through the cultivation of true paths. And therefore, certainty is gained in relation to the Dharma jewel. And thirdly, it's only the Sangha jewel who can guide us based on actual lived experience or cultivated experience. So therefore, certainty is also gained in relation to the Sangha jewel.
And this is a good over or that the good over, get the hagor, Chibu Nebadi, get to Relarwa, get the Langeva, then the race as and be topa Samadi to Relarwa, Lelo was Kigo Relarwa, that Lela was a delacto said the Lamsan Sigurwa, delacto Lamsan to Sigurwa. The Lamsan Gedito to were Sanji Conchoti, Lam Tembo, Tartuba, Sanji Concho, Sanji Chiburisha said the Hakuegi, Tema Topache, the Lamsan Kitu, Gediki Lamna. That do Sireda, down the Gediki Sempe, that you were Chiligrua, Gediki, Telato Tiavan, then the Chibuin body, Toya, the Neba, Telato Kiri Larua, and the Gediki, Sachiligrua.
Looking at this and seeing that it says certainty or realization will easily arise, one may think, so if it's easy to arise, when will that actually come about?
That Diggy Gurus and Dangazuki, Kissing Sheba, the Korea, number one, Korea, Koala, Panimi, Tongue, the Kabla, and Koa said, Dungai, Rashin, said Dunga Dempa, Dungagi, Dunga Gui, Dunga Chabati, Dunga, Tongue, Chesan Koa said Dungai, Rashin, Dungaki, Dunga Gudi Carrela, Kunju Dempares, Leda Nyomo Pares, that Gelet in the Chepache, did how that Leda Nyomo Ban in the Carre said that they are so. Denzi Marik Padele Kigore, says. She's not that Denzi Marik Padiki or said, New Moban and so Denzi Marik Padi, Delet in the Kigu, Shimjushi, Di Hago. They have gone at that Denzi Marik Padi Pong, Tugudi Mindu, Denzi Marik Zimba Nashin, Dugue Mindu, Secheva Chidukala, Mazut, Dentik and Namshato, Tombanila Cheva Chigorwa. And she's not Denenza, Kocheva Cheche, and Denzin said, Yudi. Zindu Gansa Penanga to Gansa La Chavana, Gansa Timber Juba Sitino de Capra, Gansa de Gala, Mata Rangun when the Juba Zindugores, two Shimju, the Shimju, the Jeba, Tending and Namja Samta Jeba Chid, Gansam Chilla Gansa said the Gala and Tuba Rangun when the Juba said, it's our game of Don Sansi Tongo, Ejerwa, Don Sansi, she's a Tombani Torwa. She's a Diniga Tombani Tongo, Ejere. Tombani Toru, Denzin Digi, Gansa Timber Juba, Denzin Loshe Imba. Tombanyi to be Lodi Combalatene, di Pong to your door. Cesanti Torno di Torno and that the Gigare Sanji Gemne de Carasumba Resena, Cesa Dunga Pangore, Dunga Yukunju Dembade, Di Kunju Dembade, and did in Yomobade, Leda Yomoba, Leda Yoman Zawa Denzire, Denze Pango Rese Sunyorwada, Sumba Sosuki Shimjuji Yamen Jeje, Tombanyi the Torno. Then the dancing the pong to your door to it. Oh, that Sanji soon at Demparisha. Just as Sanji did, that Lama Noa, Machuba, thinking when that Captain Bobo, Sanji Chiburisha, Segi, never the delegates. Just a Cochebache, Tombani Dorje. Tombani Dorje, and Dito Palatine, Sanji di, Lam Tembobo, and Tardo Lam Tembobo, Chibu in body, get to go. Tombani Mato, Nielanda, Kabuchagore. The Tombani Donna. That's not yet the Lamano Tarba, the Tamji Kimbo, the Lamano thinking that Tartu Jibu embodied detail of Dr. Ejere. Tombani Mado Bardo, your Marese, Kitu Mares, the Tombani Torn to Garson, Tombani Torn the Garson, Torn, Dinzi Marik body, Pangtugu Badosorwa, Pangu Badu Torn. Didn't Lamsa or that Sanji didn't Yama Sunship with the Barisha, said Lamsa that Sanji di Manoa in Lamsa Dimba, said Delato, said the Lamsa Totu, said Dirua.
In answer then to the question of if this certainty can easily arise, when will this easy arisal of certainty come about? Well, being an arisal, it's clearly a dependent arising, dependent on causes. So the specific causes that need to be generated, that need to be cultivated in order for one to gain realization or certainty in the validity of the three jewels is initially reflecting deeply on the sufferings of samsara, the sufferings of physical mental pain, the suffering of transient happiness, and all-pervasive suffering. Reflecting well on these, to the extent that one reflects well on these, one will look for the causes of suffering. So there we've looked at the noble truth of suffering, and now we're looking at the noble truth of the origin of suffering, true origins. And we recognize that it's from our afflictions that we suffer, and that these afflictions arise in dependence on a single root cause, the ignorance of true grasping. And in dependence on the extent or the depth that we've come to recognize the validity that it is the ignorance of true grasping that leads to all suffering that we've, in the prior meditation, have given rise to the wish to get rid of, we will ask ourselves, can I abandon the ignorance of true grasping? Is it really possible? So here the practitioner will have heard many teachings and will know all these answers, but they're cultivating within themselves to gain transformative realization, not a mere theoretical understanding. And in this way, they now are investigating whether the ignorance of true grasping, or rather whether true grasping can be abandoned or not. Is it actually an ignorance or not? And they're cultivating, therefore, the wisdom realizing emptiness through seeing how phenomena such as the self appear, and then investigating whether they exist in this way or not, and coming to recognize they do not. No phenomenon, including the self, exists in the way that it appears, and therefore the consciousness that grasps at phenomena as existing the way they appear, as existing truly, is an ignorance, because it's not in accordance with reality. When that is realized, then the practitioner knows with certainty that true grasping is an ignorance because it's discordant from reality, and it can be abandoned through the continued cultivation of the wisdom realizing emptiness, or the wisdom realizing selflessness. This now is known, is realized by this person. So through this process of repeated reflection on the sufferings of samsara and their origins, and the solution to the origin of suffering, the practitioner comes to know the cause of our suffering and the solution to our suffering. And they now know the Dharma is valid. They now know the Dharma jewel is valid. And therefore, so too is the founder teacher, the Buddha Shakyamuni, too is valid or authentic. And therefore, so too will all other Buddhas and the Sangha jewels as well, all other Arya beings who have actually come to generate these realizations in a direct manner in their continuum. So how does one gain this realization with ease? Without realizing emptiness, it's not going to arise. One needs to realize emptiness, gain, or maybe it's clearer if I say gain a realization of emptiness, because there are many layers of subtlety. Through a coarse realization of emptiness, one will easily recognize or realize that the three jewels are the sole source of refuge for those aspiring for liberation.
Sanyi kunchu tongpa nyi to'andu, dine sanyi kunchu te kyab tartu kyab tuanpa po te mano wata matuba, di matu minu se de sanyi matu minu sago tu guri eje. Di nashin tongpa nyi to'andu, denzin pangpege pangpa yoba tongore. Chizan denzin pangpege pangpa yoba tongore, ta denzin pang yodu kabla nyomo ki yu sabo na che pangpa tongore, and then kowa tala drawa re eseje. Chizan kowa le drawa la, tongpa nyomo ba sabo na chebe pangpa toyo kowa le dragu du, di chikbu re sha se di gedi hago re se na, tongpa nyi toyo da ha, toyo du, and da tongpa di nyomo ba sabo na chebe pangpa toya du, chizan di topna, 타바 토구도 디 마도나 타바 토구 민도 선배게 되네 델라도 또 그래서데 되는 요모바 사본나 집에 빵바디 타바 토야 디지부레 세다 하고 해야 될 또 해야 돼 동반이 또 하는데 또 안에 남사 난 하고 또 그래서 디나시 다 되네게 람 냠는 제발이야 안데 다 되네게 로 그소라 마노와 마투바 따다 남지데 파베 가자리 가선 동반이 또 해도 다 되네게 동반이 또 반이 가자지기 냠는 유현지가 람 로바 제발 푼순 소바지 두고마도 동반이 마또 바이나 시에반에 따따로 푼순 소바지 제퇴야 가보러 봐 디네자 동반이 또 하는 수수기 동에 또 해도 다 되네게 동반이 또 한디기 람지다 와신도 로바지 두고도 와 선배게 되자 되네게 또 두고래지 제자다 돈달라 수수라는 게 동반이라 제바제 동반이 또 요도 동반이 또 세외 제라 람상 상기디 캡템보포 타두고 임바다 하우 두고래 될때나 람상 동반이 또 산에 디제 람상 안에 그세 고텐디 녀모포 사본나 제pombe pombe 고텐디 타두 아니 코발로 조발로 디토고 바이네 또 그래 디 냠는 제람 냠는 집발로 로제게 기리고 줘야 타두 디 푼소바 임바디 델라 또 두그리에서 동반이 또나 델라도 디순가 또 두그리에서 해야지 언제 순거다
Only through oneself engaging in the sequence of meditations repeatedly over a sustained period that one will come to a realization of emptiness. And it's at that point that one will know through one's own experience in meditation that has come about in dependence on a repeated meditation based on knowledge, that the ignorance of true grasping can be abandoned, and when it is, liberation will be attained. And it's only through the abandoning of true grasping that liberation is attained, and true grasping, or the ignorance of true grasping itself, can only be abandoned through realizing emptiness. When the practitioner has come to gain certainty in this, or realization of this, it's at that point that they will gain certainty in the Dharma jewel, true paths and true cessations, and in the founder teacher, as well as all other Buddhas, the Buddha jewel, recognizing that this is a being who has completely and perfectly abandoned all faults and attained all good qualities, and thereby can lead one in a perfect and unmistaken manner. And therefore, certainty is gained in relation to the Buddha jewel. And then thirdly, those who have gained direct realization of emptiness, the Sangha jewel, those are our skilled companions, those who, so using synonyms here, skilled companions, those who assist us, those who help us on the path. In this way, one gains certainty in the Sangha jewel too. All of this comes about in dependence on realizing emptiness.
Nene zada nga zu kisin di nye le shuya de la jita kakpa meba kye meba se de kakso dine sanyo chumden de ye kakso meba sumba re se de la dine nga zu jeba che tongpa nyi tonga du ane kare ngure se ne tongpa nyi tonga du kabla ane de la dine sangye de ane kakso re sangye liya deba de ane kakso shen de deba toba chi ligi re sa ane de la dine kakso tongpa nyi tonga du sangye de ane kakso 체메 기부 임바 하고 두그레스 드네 상예 데라 안 신의 대바 제가 두그레스 안디나시 안 상예 송비게 송디게 나야 안 참아 임바 하고 두그레스 도그레스 드네 안 데라 드네 아니가서 상예기 제수 대비교 안 지게 캐바 반데 가서 공부를 소바 대수이네 안 체메 제 기부지 가서 데려야 안에 가서 신의 대바토바다 안에 랑게 람든비게 기회 신인 봐도 신의 대바토가 준 거래서 제가 동방이 또 봐이나 상예데라 체메 기보인바 상예 송디 체송 체마인바 안에 되네게 상예 송지수 대별로 바볼루르블라 소바데소이나 대절의 신의 대바토가 용 거래서 제가 신의 대바토 제 맞에다 디링 가산당아 디르저 상이 권조 숨세야dim 지사 상기 권초다 최권조 기둥 권조 대수기 겹네 지구 인바디야 동방이 또 발을 때는 남사 다 겹네 람된바 탈투바디 마노 마투바 차상 된투게 상기 지구 인바디야 동방이 또 강해 발을 때는 용투 그래서 다 녀모바 바샤다 코리 탈발을 줘와디야 녀모 바샤다 제 사본의 제베 뻥비게 뻥바 탈바디 뻥비 뻥바 톱고바디 디야네 동방이 또 발을 때는 레그래서 디토발라 람된 냠는 제고바디야 동방이 또 발을 때는 하고도 그래서 되네 대안 냠는 제발야 안 파베 가사기 로치기 파베 가서 초도기바 인바디야 아니 동방이 또 발을 때는 레도 그래서 동방이 또 바이나 내니기 연된 빠도 매바직 가서야 삼가서나 연된지 되니기 또베 연된지 끼운 거래서 남사 돼서 동방이 또 발을 때네 안 되니기 연된게 차상 레라고 시키게 돼서 그러다 남산 리고 돼서 그러와 대라도 끼게 돼서
Practitioner who receives many teachings and reflects repeatedly over a sustained period on those will come to gain a realization of emptiness. And they'll do so through relying on the unmistaken teachings of the Buddha and their skilled lamas. And they'll realize emptiness in the way that Nagarjuna has referred to in the praise mentioned at the start of this section, where he refers to the 8 extremes that are refuted or abandoned through meditating on dependent arising and dependent arising and emptiness itself. When the practitioner then comes to realize emptiness, they will have done so through relying on these teachings. And they will see, therefore, that the teachings are valid. Or they'll realize, therefore, that the teachings are valid. And they will now give rise to a faith arising from knowledge. So last night we spoke about 2 different types of faith. This is the stable, unwavering faith that will come about in dependence now on this realization of emptiness, and the faith will be towards the Dharma jewel, recognizing that these teachings are unmistaken and will lead to liberation through the generation of true paths and true cessations. And through this faith that has arisen from realizing emptiness, faith will be towards all the Buddhas, the Buddha jewels, recognizing that these are beings who attained perfection through cultivating the Dharma jewel within themselves to the point where the Dharma jewel itself was perfected and they became the Sangha jewels, and therefore valid beings valid beings or completely reliable beings. And their teachings too are completely reliable. And moreover, the great practitioners, the Arya Bodhisattvas, such as Nagarjuna and so forth, they and their teachings are also valid and reliable. So in this way, through meditating on emptiness to the point where one gains a realization, so many other qualities follow due to the generation of this unwavering faith, this faith arising from knowledge in the teachings, and therefore one will give rise from the generation or the realization of emptiness, one will easily gain certainty that the 3 jewels are one's sole refuge.
소수기 다산주고 뭐도 람냠네 제 닝도블레야다 안델이야 듬바드냐 되게 빼마스베 슈크첨보 되네게 들라 닝도블레야다 되네 냠네 제바이나 되네 고 람사 안지게 제 연내디게 교고야 공원에 공도 패야지 패투야지 용괴서와 되네자 디인자다 동방에 떠야지 빼마스 계침보레 자침보레 사데 직 송닝아 저게데 동방이데 빼 지시오지 계침보다 자침부 인바데 또 호레사데 송외데 김자로 있는 신사와.
This then one can understand that many good qualities will easily arise following the realization or a realization of emptiness. Moreover, when one gains a realization of emptiness and sees the validity of the three jewels, this gives one a deep inner strength and confidence in the three jewels, thereby empowering our spiritual development because of the resulting enthusiasm we'll have to apply ourselves to the teachings. And this way, through an initial realization of emptiness, all spiritual qualities become easily attained. Hence, the need to strive to realize emptiness.
지금 동반이 또 될이야 아니 지금 띵에지 제주도 미빅제 띵에지고 동반이 띵에지고 검제 실라송저 검 대한 장주 셈기 장주 셈유군의 라제 한 장주 셈기 도안에 루시네 동반이를 미비게 신의 검제 제주 검비 검발에 때네 나가 도시네 검연에 간에 류들이야 아니 지금 내나서 뉴하다 아니 지금 곧 류들들 야야 줘야다 안디마세 도시용 검제다 동반이 오순도 도피게 즉 태신 통람세의 파베 가서 토베도 아주 류샤산 대신 안주 대신이랑 아주 류들에 즉 나여바 차여바 안지 뒤에도 봐 차고로와 지난 되네기 동반이 검발에 되네야 전주심지 심비 통 동반이 검제 동반이 미실라 순조 검제 동반이 오순도 또 용도 아니 류디 규화친제 아주 류디 다 나야 차에 되게 아니 지금 닝버차에 내가 내가 류디 경고 닝버차로 되네기 닝버차에 되게 나야에 되게 차에 되게 되네기 류리야 되네기 강아규님의 류다 이기라시 류세야리 삼바삼바삼지 지금 컴비나리아 고접죠 고접죠 주샤베네 안 삼바삼바지 칠로된 조투를 셈나지 셈가월레세들레 발레투야 지 이기라시 류세야리 안 되네기 규호를 해야지 전주스면 파바차야 돼. 이 교회에 가서는 전주스면 이심비고 동반이라 미비게 제주 공부 띵이지 공부 돕기 교성으로 와. 언데네지 연대되는 용고를 해서도
Really, all inner qualities within our mind, will easily be attained following the initial realization of emptiness. One cannot overemphasize the incredible benefits that will follow from such a realization. When one gains this initial realization of emptiness, one will see and thereby sees the validity of the three jewels. One will apply oneself wholeheartedly and with ease to cultivating these varying good qualities. For example, the attainment of the union of calm-abiding meditative insight will come about with ease through the determination that arises from the initial realization of emptiness. And with the attainment of the union of calm-abiding and meditative insight, one experiences a deep physical comfort. It's usually translated as bliss, but more accurately, a deep physical comfort. And therefore, one experiences through that initial realization of emptiness not only great mental ease and peace, but one's later through the attainment of calm abiding, one attains physical comfort too. Now, having generated the union of calm abiding, as well as the prior initial realization of emptiness, the generation of bodhicitta comes about with ease. And with the generation of bodhicitta, actual uncontrived bodhicitta, vast stores of merit are accumulated, and the mind is so radically transformed that one's body is and physical experiences are transformed too, in terms of illness or discomfort. As one continues to develop one's bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness to the point where one directly realizes emptiness and attains the path of seeing and is now counted amongst Arya Bodhisattvas, one's body is radically transformed. One attains a mental body. From outside it will look the same, but one's body has been transformed and one will not experience illness again, one will not age either. And in fact, one can close one's door, be alone in one's room, but with this mental body now, wherever one directs one's mind, one's body will follow. And thereby one can engage in a vast array of beneficial deeds. So all of this comes easily or follows easily from the attainment of the initial realization of emptiness.
팬도 누구마 전신 마녀 바지 디 팬도치 두그래지 현래 팬도시에게 아니 배시당 두그래지 배능아 별래 두그로셔 두그로지 두그이나 그 사실은 아주 누구로와 두려지 면지 잡지 면지 단의 유어 당사변에 두드사시면 두두딩아 저게 수패 맞아 뇌요 말아 어미 제자 면기 배시 답지 두디 두스는 면 규나지 지바레스 세상 아우절에 대딩아 저게 냠는 다다말에 맞아 아주 되차기야 다 녀모바기 가서 뇌두고 그래 맞아 라신이가 가 전주선발라 전주선바 파비고바 톱스나 되자라서 바되게 네 그래서 뇌두고 말게서 깨베 강존에 현대 편도지에 현대집에 야나를 줄두고 그래 제래 진짜 내니기 뇌바로시 다 동반이 또 로공발에 되네 전주선 미군에 라미 토네 되네 공발에 되네 내니기 뇌바로시 용두고 그래서 그러다
Very ordinary beings like ourselves, we've come to recognize the harm the arisal of the affliction of attachment does to us as well as to others. But for an Arya Bodhisattva, this is not the case. Actually, attachment serves to the body. The Arya Bodhisattva is able to deal with attachments in a way that it brings benefit. Just like for us, attachment is a poison. For a bodhisattva, who is a radically transformed being, even an affliction like attachment can be transformed so that it is not only unable to harm the Arya Bodhisattva, but the Arya Bodhisattva can use this to benefit others.
루치마당 당투거래지 루치마당에라 강아요 말해지래 제산 소소를 누교 말에 루치마당 디기 돈에 셴래 판도 당아저 소소기보다 제주스 뭐 초람바도 소소기보다 아저이나 루치마당 반에 루디 제sem제 안 조도시 제제반에 사실과 안디네 아저게 안디지게 아저를 베지 다음에 라교 말봐 제가 제주스 파발라 안디네 용고 말해 제가 루치마당도 걸어서 루 지게 직진바탕 파조를 직 제사회네 람사 진가를 나시 루시 좁투래서로
Arya Bodhisattvas, such a unique being, they are able to even offer their body to sentient beings without experiencing any harm. Non-Arya Bodhisattvas, and certainly ordinary beings like ourselves, should we offer our body perhaps to be eaten by other beings, it's clear we will experience harm. But an Arya Bodhisattva will not. Their body will not be harmed. They can immediately regenerate their body. So in this way, they can easily practice the generosity of offering their body. This first sentence then, thus certainty will easily arise that the three jewels are the sole source of refuge for those aspiring for liberation. This, in my explanation, presents some of the inconceivable benefits that come from meditating on emptiness, which is required in order to actually gain realization of emptiness. Seeing these Holiness's commentary here, it's just a single line, but when thinking about the meaning is both vast and profound.
데타나 아세를 다 데타나 스레 강리스 데라도 또 투고래 해야지 네 투고래 이때네 있나 데타나 둥아기 이 순바 남 셔라 그래서 초숨라 접수 좋아다 초숨세도 권초숨세로와 초도 교방아 저기 접나네 다 초도 교바 대숨보 접수 좋아다 데타나 둥아 이 순바자 둥아 이 순바자 둥아래 코위 둥아래 타르치 강아리도 어디 코와 둥아 코와라 레다니 뭐 코와라 가와께베나 둥아 데네데네 레도와 셈베게다 둥아를 데라 타고도 셈베 삼을 당한디기서 이 순바남 아니 가르 지저 초숨나 접수 좋아다 권초숨나 접수 좋고래 해제
Moving to the next sentence in the commentary. And I've just, to match the meaning better, changed the second word a little bit. Those sick and tired of feeling, those sick and tired of suffering will go to the three jewels for refuge, and a firm, indestructible attitude of aspiring for liberation will arise. Here, the term for, again, it's just translated in the usual way as three jewels. It actually means the three supremes. Literally, is the three supremes. So it's, the literal Tibetan is going for protection to the three supremes. So again, this is, again, I'll just mention this to make clear how it's usually presented in Tibetan. We just have going for refuge to the three jewels. So for this to arise in a way that is firm and indestructible, comes about through initially being fed up or sick and tired of the mirrored sufferings that pervade samsara.
접수 좋아래 세대다 유조사디 접수 못될지 조세대 안주게 좋아래 세당 다나 지당 안주 사지지는 파 좋아세지 좋아 디나신데 좋아세대 안주 셈디세오다 안주 이 삼노티 데니기 접수인데 이체 봐서야지 그거를 좋아세대 이체 봐가서는 대시 셰바나지 람템보바 마노 템바데 산유콘조레 세대 델레 이체 봐다 데네 아니 델레 교비기 뉴바디 술려지 겹네 최고koncho도 델레 데네 교부리 세다 디 교발량 아주 냠len 제발라 로지겐데 게되고 지기리 에스비데 이체 봐들 좋아세대 이체 볼로디 디 초라 봐줘지 델레 이제주 이체 봐들 그거로 봐 접수 좋아래 제자데 네게 동할레 타르되 받는게 델레야 접수 좋아래서 이체 지나는 디 람로 로고고래 로고고래서 그러다
What we usually express as going for refuge. When you see this, then understand firstly that what one turns towards is the three jewels, so the three protections, or the three supremes, or the three rarities. Those are the objects that one turns towards. And then going, usually what would come to mind is a physical journey. But here it's, of course, mental, that we turn our mind towards the three protections. So we turn our mind with a sense of trust or conviction in the capacity of the three jewels or the three protections to lead to unerring or unfailingly lead us to attain protection within ourselves from suffering. So this is the way to understand the term going for refuge, referring to the three protections that one turns one's mind with an attitude of trust or conviction in the capacity for protection to be attained through training one's mind in this way. And the training that one is embarks on will be unerring, infallible, unmistaken.
다들이 저기 지단 지게 동방이 또바이나 안내 점내 숨 안내 지텔야 안내 점내 지구인 바 텔라도 또 투그리 해야다 안내 동할리 내 코르 동할리 파다 지 이숨바 남게 탈되게 되는 안내 권지선만 접수 두고 어래서지 데 지슈로하다 되네 손으로 봐 다디기 돈다 닝보들라 다디 Shandadi didn't chigore said, Mi Shandagi Shigoro, that comes in the chigore said. Says, and that comes in the chigore said, that Dondalang to the Karlapchi wasn't it? This would didn't in chigore does. The Kurons in the Dinichore, setting answer that Kurons di Chegore, Sasungorva. Chisan Kurons and Arzo in there, Tombani Toba Ina, Japsum de Tadu, Jamni Chibu in but how delato Totugure, and the Sangelia, Negas at Semikibuima Totugure, and the Michi Casodi, and the Chicken Toto maybe Teva, and Negason, Shene Tevatoba Lung to Gres. The names are the Kurons in there. Chisnada, Mazuine, Dungal Targo, Koyu Dungal Drogo, Dungal Gogo, Digipon Sobo Gogo, Digugu Banza, Guban, Conjusun, Japsu Dorje, Conjusum, Japsu Droge, Drone, Conjusun, Jambu, Labjet, Labgure, Sever, that in Yamne Jegure, saying Ansolia, Donda Disungor, that Dondala.
The meaning then as presented is that through a generation of or attainment of the wisdom realizing emptiness, we will go for refuge with certainty, with an attitude of unwavering trust. The essence of the meaning here is that we should relate to the three jewels as if they are guiding us so that we can become just like them. Or maybe to express that better, the meaning of this is to give rise to the aspiration within ourselves that we become just like the three jewels. We can visualize this or imagine this as if we are being called by them to join them, to become just like they are, Arya beings. And for this to come about in a transformative manner, as mentioned here, we need to give rise to this faith arising from knowledge, or maybe this faith arising from knowing, this stable, unwavering faith, because that has the strength of mind for us to easily apply ourselves to cultivating the path within us. And here, it will also, what is implied, is we'll easily apply ourselves, or we'll want to hear and live in accordance with the precepts of refuge or the advice from the three jewels.
This one is Lapjasigurwa. Then I was drum said, drum share drum story says you like your drum share didn't your says, the Lapjas Kachagoma, didn't in your mother, Chisha mother, Charles didn't Jagore says Sungo Marwa. Drum said, didn't the junior, didn't your said, drum ramato, drum shamato, the Lapjachago Marva. That day, didn't in your Chapsan, didn't in the Tugure, didn't in the Kigre, Cesar, didn't you was the curls didn't chab and the curls did curls the Yungre, curls the Chegure, said the Labjachigorwa. Just another drum shavada, Labjani did your card, Chagor, Jazadi, and the Labjachago. Labjas do. And he kept on in the Yore, you did in the Yore, didn't Jetan, didn't in the Re, Chintinisa, Charles the Diam and Jehores, the Jehores, the Jevan, Charles of Chapsadi Ragade, you did the Tokures, Sungo, Disungorwada.
The way to relate to, it's the same word, advice or precepts, is not to receive this or relate to it as if it is just a mere story, but rather to relate to it as if it is guidance. And the way that the advice or precepts is presented so that it is received as guidance is to lay out the many benefits of acting in accordance with the precepts and the faults of not doing so, and then from the side of the recipient to hear it in that way and develop certainty and develop that knowledge within themselves so that we are encouraged to train our mind in accordance with the advice or precepts. So therefore, we shouldn't hear them as being like a story, but rather as instructions.
And Rani Tarba Topna Nyambigi Tardugu Lui Shidu Meba Temple Kiawadans. Cisnada that is Nanzuki Jeba Cheche, Tompany Sam Dang, Tu Chin Yundan Shimju Jeba Chedu, Denegi, and the Kasor Tarbi Tarba Tobiaki Tar Bene Yomoba, Sabone Bongba, Bong Tugu Yoba the Semeng Ebanye. Dini Digi Yomo Payaki Nimbo, Tomba to be shut up the young Hako. Dini is that Bongba, Chiza Tarba Sadi, Rani, Tarba Topna, Nyambigi, Taba Top Tugu Yobadi, Hako Tuba, Tobiaki, Tugu Yobadang, Tobjigi, Tab Lam, Yamlinja Yobadi, Semeng Eba Nyaba Inza, that Rani Tarba Tokudu, Sabe Tarba Donu Lodi, Shidu Mevas, and Yorguna Meva, Tembu Shuchi Ungri. Rani Tarba Topna, Nyambigi, Tardu Lo, Shidu Meba, Tembo Kiawadans. Is a Tarba Madam, the Tapin Tarba Topudu, and be Tarba Denu Lodi, Mas Tembo, the Yuagune, Sujigi, brought down to a American, Tembo Shuki to Gure.
Looking at the quotation at the end of the sentence, or the words in inverted commas, if I could only attain liberation. So I don't think it comes across very well in my translation, but the meaning is, through having gained a realization of emptiness, one has given rise to certainty in the validity of the three jewels, and the three jewels alone present the valid and correct path. And thereby, one has come to recognize that I can abandon the afflictions together with their seeds and attain liberation. I can attain liberation. It is entirely possible and achievable for me to do that. And here, one gives rise to a determination that is unchanging, that is stable. So this results, this determination to achieve liberation, which is, the words are, if I could only attain liberation. So this is a sincere aspiration, which is stable and unwavering due to the prior initial realization of emptiness, the stable and unwavering determination to strive for and achieve liberation.
On this chasa that the Shinye Benanga Tedana Dunga Yi Sun Yen, Chosuma Japsu Joa, said the Gedan, Rani Tarba Topna, Nyambigi, Tarba Dunu, Loto Meva, Tembu Kigri, said, Chazan, this Chazan Dunda, Carson, Tombani Doba in Nasir, Tombani Do, that Tombani Do Savi Chela, and the Carrion Grossne, Chazanta Tunga Tagudu, San Bigeda. Yi soon begin that tell a job at the new body, Kyopsat, Conjo Sum Red or Mato Shanghai Mindo Asbe, Conjo Sum Resha, Chizada, Yamlin Jedi, Lamden Yamlin Jedi Resha, the Choconjo Cotin, the Toku, the mother that Tabsha the Mindo Asbe, the nigging ever Yene, and Japsu, that DJ Hodo Sembe, that did don't tell Cuban new body, Conjo Sum Resha, Sembe, the Japsu, you should take care, Japsu Toyada. It's not that the Niki Capsule, that's also good. Tombani door and your mobile Bangby, Bangba, Yoba, Bangby, Gordy Yoba, Dead Ponjig, Tab Lamden, Yamlin Jig Yoba, Tomaenza, Seming Ebanyaza. The Niki kept Gasore, the Targo to Sempi, Tarbo Topo to Sempi, Lodia, Donu Dumbata, Tot Meva, the Joy Meva Yungri, said, the United Chasa, Tombani to be low, Jena, then Yungri said, don't that disungorwa.
What has been presented here serves to encourage us to apply ourselves to come to the realization of emptiness. Because when one does do so, it truly has an incredible and transformative impact on oneself. In order to realize emptiness, one will have reflected well on the sufferings of samsara, and one will have given rise to being fed up with or sick and tired of sufferings. One will see how one is continuously, helplessly turning in this wheel of samsara, in this suffering of samsara. And one will be fed up with this, wanting freedom. And with the realization of emptiness, one knows that that is possible, not in theory, not for maybe another time, but I can do this. It is entirely attainable. And through this transformative attitude, one's faith in the three jewels will be stable and unwavering, and thereby one's energy in applying oneself to cultivate Tripartitan's cessations will be transformative. One will strive to arise as the three jewels oneself. So all this follows from the initial realization of emptiness.
This Chazan Tombani Tovalet in the Yungure Esirua, Tombani Tova, the Nation, Deva Tova, that Simiki Wukia, that the Niki, and Dodome by Kigri said in the Sun, Tangan some like a ligre to Warish. Tombani Matova and the Yungumarives. The Tombani Tovalet in the Yungun, the Tombani Matona, the Yunguru Yungumar Toto maybe Sanye Jumne, Simiki Botoya, Desolia Shene, Deva Toya, and the Tarbadoni, Lo, as the 가서 탈된 탈바된 냠지 잼네 접순부 지부 코나랑 애 코나 임바 될라도 도야당 안에 탈바된 일로 안에 시도 매바 땜부 슈게데 도바니 마도바 강사로 연구 말이 왜스 삼는 고구로 지원 얘기로 왔다.
And one may think, well, I have an understanding that now, from this presentation, all that will be attained through the transformative impact of realizing emptiness. I will have unwavering faith in the three jewels, apply myself wholeheartedly to cultivate Tripartitan cessations, knowing that this is attainable for me. But what about those of us who have yet to gain a realization of emptiness? Where does this leave me? Is any of this possible for a practitioner like myself?
Semzambada, that dirty, but that thank you Luki Shigorwa, thank you Luki Shevena, the Semzambada, and the Chikumaranju Pada, Jerama, Dode Balasoba, the Nigi and Jesu Chaza and Conjusum Jeps to Gorba, Consum Gita, Jeps Tovaza, the Nigi and Conju Jeps to Gemrotiki, Doto maybe, Lodo maybe Gemro de Reda Mar as a Juligro. Dodo Mevas that did that. Rani Taba Devani Tardu Yulo Shidu Meba, Gua Meba, Shidu Meba, Dodo Meba, Dobas and Meba Charo, the Niki Yeturi Gig Mares, Constantly Gig Mares said that, go to Shimjuched, the Shigirwad and the Yungruad, and the Tobaligirwad.
And further, one may wonder, but what about those who don't accept the Prasangika presentation? What about the non-Prasangikas? They go for refuge. Is their refuge then not unchanging, unshakable? So what would the case be for those of a different philosophical view?
That one of the Lula, Dotomeba Kiaware, she could rather run you by no Koronzu debate Dotomeba, Semzamba Nadir, that the Koronzu to the Lula Shabana Koronzu get that, and Koronzu Tata, Dotomeba Kiaware, said Shigurua. Then you get 10 Lula Kishabaina, that bene. Semzambada, Maranju Barosina, Deniki, Gemna Kepsu, Gemrotige, and Dotomeba Chagrives, Chagmarilana, that Dotomeba Chagomare, Chagmarizere. Tembu Chagmarella. I didn't think in jail, jail hero. Koronzu Dumdalana, Ranju by no Koronzu, Gemro, the Tempurella Grua, Georgia, Tempurella Grua. That as a tangible Kishe, Rangi, you and the conscious not just to be a camera, the daughter maybe camera Chagri, Chagi Maris, Kishavana, tangible daughter maybe camera the Chag Maris.
For view holders, or for the practitioners who ascribe to another tenet, they can develop indestructible, unwavering faith in their tenet. According to themselves, Prasangika will look at them and say, no, your faith is not indestructible.
Karelamna, the tangible location, the Bener Japsudo, Kimdo Ranjubachi, Umaranjubat, Kansachi, Ranjubachi. The Korongi, the Ranshin Jubi Tone, sometimes the Japsudo, Jamrodi, Kotebachi, Jamro Yobache. 다 간섬질이야 안 텐주비게 기회신 진 최슈 망보 슈네 안 간섬질라 라시 마두바레 스키시에도 다 거기 가르삼네 라시 주비게 잡수 삼단 잡수는데 따다 차기면도 와서 비게다 디 라시 주바 삼단다 아니 거기 동안 타달에 빵 투고 면도 와 제가 라시 주비 삼 라시 마두비 동반이 또 별로데 맞게반 녀모 빵 투고 면도 와서 비게 요르고 봐다 요르도 대시 코로도 라시 주비 아니 지게 냠는체나 아니 따다레샤 선배선데 어디 따다레면 선비게 요르고 저 요르도 로디 냐마 섬데 따다레 섬바데 매바 차르고 시르고 와 지산 시도 매바 말 시르고 그래서 제가 되니게 송제 망고 쉬벌에 때네 아니 텐주베 따왈파 똑바주 게 따와파 검시 셔셔르다 야 따와 야 게르치도 오다데 라신이 맞고 맞도반다 녀모 방투민도 디방바도는 타바 토투민도 제가 대신이라 나랑기 다 녀모 라신 맞고 동반이 맞도바이네 톱투구도 선배 삼로디 따다라 참미도 선배게 용거로 봐.
Take as an illustration, Svatantika Madhyamaka. They would have received many teachings, thought deeply about them, and be convinced in the Svatantika presentation, and have faith in their presentation. But when they later meet a teacher who presents the Prasangika view, and they, over probably a lengthy period of time, receive many teachings and reflect in an open manner on the Prasangika teachings, they will come to their prior faith in all phenomena existing by way of their own nature. That faith will start to shake. It will appear to them that faith will now be shown to be destructible, not indestructible. So prior to this, the Svatantika would have believed that phenomena do exist by way of their own nature. They are inherently existent. They are not truly existent. They're empty of being truly existent. But they do exist by way of their own nature. But being skillfully guided later by a Prasangika teacher, that faith in this Svatantika view will shake, will waver, and eventually they will abandon that view.
동반이 또 상연라 되게 교화도에 매버려 동이 동바 tenju lula 계시데 동반이 라신이 마르고 또 매바는 예래야 아니 그 점내래 지금 거기서 라신 주바 삼다지 탈두기 탑이 여바데 체명에 가서래 대바 여바네 다 간삼질이야 tenju비게 따월 파 슈제 한 최망보에 되는 라신 매바 또 그래서데 되는 롭정제 소소히 냠뇽제 되는 바 사이도 오다디 따다 대신에 삼다 따다 참 진짜 라신이 마두바디 마도바데다 코발을 두고 민도 대인자다 인지미지다 코발을 줘 라신이 또 고구도와 선배 삼당에도 하고 체명해 봐니에도 대신에만데 삼도바자 지난데 건주기 딩얘기도 또도 매바면 시주고 그랬지 로디 시주고 그랬 그래서 동반이 집에 남샤 파된 남 년내 림바 되게 파된 냠는 두두시도 데니기 니스 사바지 하고도 대시데 다다라지 매바데 아니 삼노디 파시제 난다디 다다지 용서데 저들 리고로 와제 지나다 디레 이제 다 텐주불라 소소 동반이 또 발라다 시도 매베 또바 그래서 대바 시도 매바 개발라 동반이 또 별로 게나 다 시도 매바 용거리 해서지 디송거로.
For those, though, who encounter the Buddha Dharma through the view of the Prasangika and reflect extensively on this, and can come to gain a realization of emptiness that is in accordance with the Prasangika, their faith will be unshakable, indestructible, because it cannot be overcome. It cannot be overcome by another tenet, another philosophical presentation, because their realization of emptiness is a realization that is in accordance with reality. So therefore, other presentations, even from charismatic teachers, will not lead to their view being overcome.
나도 난닝보라 가르레스네 당아 저기 저게기 니기다 아주이네 아니 그지게 야 korwi dunga da samda ji dunga tele de chogudus da modern tab minu sembege an dunga le chogudu sembe samda ya da dunga le chwege drawala tharbase togudu da tharba matobna rajan suine ane korwi dunga le chotume tharba togudu wa sebe tharba dungi sambadi ki denigi thone ane ngazoge tharba togi donala ya ane susugi chigi nyeche damya la sobada jimbe nyamle cheba sujen nyamle cheba sewe nyamle gang todu cheya da 제화 차고를 안디람 지난 안디는 염도 저게 电竞这话就上大街东北一套了呀安刚都上大的样子给什么结果来是但是就是说个上大拉些的点的下的
To summarize then what we've looked at this morning is that it's imperative to come to a realization of emptiness. A realization of emptiness will serve to radically transform us in the ways that have been outlined before. So to bring us to that point where we gain that initial realization of emptiness, it's imperative that we reflect on the sufferings of samsara, because it's to the extent that we come to recognize the pervasive, the way that sufferings pervade samsara, that we will give rise to being fed up with the sufferings of samsara, wanting, therefore, to seek out its causes. Then we will have the sufficient energy and strength of mind to truly look for those causes. And in dependence on that, we will come to recognize that the causes of suffering, particularly the root cause of the ignorance of true grasping, can be abandoned. So here, through this process, reflecting initially on suffering, we give rise to the wish to gain liberation from suffering. But we don't yet know if it's true. We'll only know if it's true when we have also realized the origin of suffering and that origin can be eradicated. Thereby, we will gaining now the realization of emptiness, with ease we will apply ourselves to the path because of our unshakable faith or trust or conviction in the three jewels. But throughout this process, from right now until we gain a realization of emptiness and thereafter, we need to also engage in the companion reflections, such as generosity, ethics, patience, and so forth, because these serve to gather the virtue that is required to power our meditations on the nature of reality. So therefore, we need to engage in this all-embracing meditations, this wide path of meditations, but not skipping the foundational meditations. Thereby, if we follow the correct and unmistaken path, we will attain a transformative realization of emptiness.
Yawaram chegi ngarang zulya, da ngarang zulya tuk zeyu wangi ngarang zu dunga siya dan digi zhubiya ki dine lamden jeba di baya ku res. Chisna dine lamden jeba najin susu rangi nyamlen kang tu du chigi senpe kang zuya an dine ki semshu ye kwaya di ane di chagora dine da ngarang diri shogayi da dine chili ba shasha dine ma nyingwa gyalo mudi shuya che.
This text that's been composed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama's own hand, we see him encouraging us to recognize the great fortune that we've achieved with this precious human life, where we have met the unmistaken path to achieve liberation from suffering in its entirety and to develop ourselves so that we can be a being of great benefit in the world. So we should hear that. And generate confidence in ourselves, a confidence that matches what he sees as our own potential, and apply ourselves thereby to generate all these good qualities and be a being, live a life of great meaning, and be a being bringing great benefit into the world. So thank you. We can conclude therefore this morning, and we'll continue in the text this afternoon. So thank you very much.